Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's the Castello Show, MLS Fantasy podcast. We did miss week one. We're sorry. We did get the league in time, but setting up the league, obviously there wasn't enough time to get all this going too. So we're going to start off with our recap from last week, and then our predictions from next week. And from now on, before you put your lineup in, come check here first, see what we're doing. So last week, I will start it off. Obviously, everyone had a ton of Miami, with them being on the double game week. Drake Callender and Jordi Alba were my two of the back line, with 16 and 14 points, respectively, so very good there. Messi, 20 points. A lot of people captained Messi, and I did not, and it was foolish. Captain Lionel Messi every time. It was a terrible mistake. Also up top, next to Messi, I had Arango on a double game week. And then Cucho Hernandez, just what a safe bet. And he had a missed penalty. Should have been a higher scoring game than he even had. Luciano Acosta, he was my captain with 8 points, 16 as the captain. Not a bad week, but not what you could have had with Messi. But if Messi didn't exist, I would have been pretty happy with Acosta and 16 points, actually. Also went with Facundo Torres, dud so far, but hey, it's the first game. I also bring this up as a warning to everyone. Brandon Bai and John Tolkien. Neither of them played. John Tolkien, I actually originally had Barreal there, found out he wasn't playing, then put in Tolkien, then Tolkien didn't play either. So, everybody check your lineups. Check your lineups to excess. Do it more often than you think is necessary.
It's the most important thing.
It's unbelievable. Because even if these two guys, like Burke Rizza had a bad week, he had 4 points. If these guys both put up 5, now I go from 105 to 115, that's really the difference in a lot of these matches, is like, can you get to 120?
And getting you that much more money.
And the money, too. Which, financially, good week last week. I picked up $3.5 million. You said you picked up how much?
2.6.
Right. So there's money to be made out there, especially if you can get some sleeper picks going. My bench was all 4 million guys that didn't play. Right now I'm trying to keep the money on the field. It looks like next week I'm going to have to do that as well. And then, hopefully week 3, week 4, you can start seeing some of those keeperoos and things like that you guys are used to. John, how'd you have it last week?
All right, so I had 3 Miami players. I had Gressel, Alba, and Messi. Gressel was the one I shouldn't have had. I should have had Callender instead. He was the right play. Had a lot more points than all the other goalies. I did captain Messi, which was the right move, which you always do when he's on a double game week, especially when only one other team is. I mean, you just have to take him on a double game week over other people. Normally, I do like Cucho as a captain, and I like Lucho as a captain. Those are guys that I captain very often, but not when Messi's on a double game week. And one of them's a home game to boot. So my other guy up top was Arango. I just had a 4-4-2, which double game week, and that played out well. My other 2 Salt Lake guys were Ruiz in the midfield and Glad on the back line. They both had 6 in 2 games. Pretty disappointing. So many better options than them. So
Glad let a lot of people down. He seemed to be one of the more popular.
I thought that was a no-brainer, actually. I thought Glad was a no-brainer. I did have Acosta, and then I had Torres and Aiden Morris. I thought they were pretty good values.
Yeah.
And they were big disappointments. Already having Messi and Arango, I couldn't fit Cucho. I could have if I changed around $4 million guys on the bench and stuff like that. But he was so much. So I figured I'd go with Aiden Morris. I thought Columbus was going to do well, and I thought he might benefit from that. But he didn't. The keeper I had was Galese. I started him on my bench, and I had just a keeper from the Whitecaps that's $4 million that I knew wasn't going to play on the field. And if Galese didn't get it, then I might have been able to make some changes then to have a keeperoo option. But he did well.
Yeah.
He had 8 points. He had the clean sheet. A lot of people took him, actually. My other defender was Kip Keller from Cincy, which really worked out well for me.
Have you heard of him before this all happened?
No.
Okay.
No.
I hadn't either, but I didn't know if that was maybe just me not paying.
No. So I had Barreal. I didn't know he went to Brazil. And so then I was looking for options. I saw Keller was only $4.5 million, and he was in the starting lineup. So
Right.
I started him. I thought they could have a clean sheet. If they didn't, he'd probably make me money. And then I put someone from Nashville on the field after. But when he had 8 points, then I just did I just had a DMP up in the field and left him. So that one worked out really well.
And then what did you total at? I was 105 total points.
I was at 121.
So, and I believe we were 1 and 2 in our league. There may have been someone between us.
Yeah, Mike was between us.
So 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Now moving on to next week, things we've learned. The biggest change that I put in here is really the back line. I kind of reworked a little. I kept Jordi Alba. I want Gressel too. Last week it wasn't in the budget, but we had a good week last week, so now I can. And to be honest, I don't see a reason to not have Jordi Alba and Julian Gressel in your lineup every week unless you're trying to make room for other Miami players. I mean, those are the two guys like that, especially
they're
now
attacking defenders,
and now that
Barreal, like you'd want.
Now that you're starting to lose some of those guys, though, this is who's left.
Right.
You know, and it really forces you into those two.
Brooks
picks.
Lennon.
Brooks Lennon's another one who disappointing last week, but very good.
But on the road.
True.
I love home guys. I mean,
yeah, well, and especially Atlanta. That stadium.
Yeah, it means a lot. You see big swings in goals scored versus not, in goals allowed versus not. I mean, the home team. That's how I start each week at looking who's the home teams.
Right. Also on the back line, I have Kai Wagner and Rudy Camacho. Camacho, he's a really solid defender. I think they could be looking at a clean sheet against Minnesota. To be honest, those two I'm not that married to. I liked Philly against Kansas City, with Polito being the guy, him not really having a great game. I like that matchup. Joe Willis in the net, they're playing Colorado. Anyone playing Colorado is who I would have put in goal this week. Midfield-wise, Emil Forsberg and Frankie Amaya. I love the Red Bulls. This is the first time I've watched a Red Bull opener and fallen in love with the team, but they are nonstop. Forsberg doesn't play a position. He's just everywhere. And Frankie Amaya, he hit the crossbar twice on bullets.
Yeah, that game could have been very different.
So, even though it didn't come out like great scoring Forsberg had 8 points, despite what looked like not that good of a game, But those two together, I think, can have, 30 points between them some weeks. I really think that's a dream team. Then Ricky Puig in the middle. Again, kind of disappointed by the first game, but a lot to like. He had the missed penalty, but just every attack ran through Ricky Puig. He was the center of every move they made. And they're playing Miami, that's not a pushover team. So for Ricky Puig to be the guy in that setting, I just think it's going to be more of that. And he's also $8.7 million, which is not on the crazy end of expensive.
Did you see the second yellow in that game?
I did see the second yellow in that game.
Did you think he even touched him at all?
So
I thought that was terrible. And here's the most terrible thing, okay? As a referee, you've given out yellow cards. You have to know that you have given a certain player a yellow card. Period.
Yeah.
You cannot give him a second yellow unless it's something that's, I don't want to say egregious, but egregious.
Yeah.
It's got to be a real thing.
Yeah.
So, that wasn't even a foul to me.
No.
Then you saw he didn't know. You saw he didn't know. He put his wallet away, and then, or he looked at it, and then he noticed, oh, this is his second yellow, and then he took out the red. But he didn't know, and that's a huge mistake by a ref.
Yeah.
And it changed the entire game, because I don't believe that they would have had that tying goal.
I have seen, actually, and I wish I knew the year or anything to tell this anecdote, but there was a story I watched on YouTube. The guy got his second yellow card, and the ref just walked away, and he never got the red, so he was like, all right, I'm going to keep playing. And then in the 90th minute, just as a defender, dove both hands, stopped the goal with his hands, and they gave him a red, and he was like, I should have had a red up. This whole time they've been playing free.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so things to look forward to next week. I will also say, right now I have up top Bawanga, Cucho, and Jovelich. I don't really know about Jovelich, but with Ricky Puig being kind of that center point, someone else is going to have to score the goal. So I think Dujon is that. Cucho is going to be my lineup pretty much every week. Bawanga and Arango, one of them will be in my lineup every week, probably. Really right now, the big thing for me is trying to figure out the back line. My back line is still kind of a mystery to me. I know Jordi Alba, I know Julian Gressel. After that, I get a little bit shaken up. I also, one guy that I really wanted this week that I don't have the space for him at the moment, Daniel Gazdag, who I did have him last week. He had a goal, and he had a goal called back for an offside. So he, very productive. For next week, things to look out for.
Well, I mean, for me, I haven't really nailed down all my guys yet, but I like Dallas at home against Montreal. Last season, Montreal was terrible on the road.
Yeah.
They have a lot of new players. When I say terrible, I mean offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
They were like the worst scoring away team, and they were the worst goals against away team.
Right.
So I love picking against them on the road. They were great defensively at home.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a lot of new players, but they still would need time to gel. So I like Dallas at home against them. Players at all different levels. I like New England at home against Toronto. I'm still not sold on Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I know, new coach, new system, everything's great. It's the same guys, and I just don't believe that they're miraculously going to care about soccer and going to be so great.
And they're coming up on a Revolution team that is,
had a pretty crappy first week.
Yeah, needs a win. This is not
home
going to
opener.
be an easy game for either of them.
Home opener. I like New England a lot, and I like them potentially as a keeperoo option because they are the last game. They're the only Sunday game.
Oh, I do like that.
So if you start Dallas or Seattle, Vancouver's keepers,
mm-hmm.
they're all home against teams that I'm not as confident in on the road. Then you can have New England as that safety net.
Yeah.
Their keeper for the keeperoo potential. Attacking wise, I like New England. I always like Heel. Always like Heel. I also like Dallas again. I said that I like them defensively. I like them attacking wise. I like Minnesota. They have so many weapons,
mm-hmm.
and they had guys hurt and still scored goals.
Yeah.
So, when they have the full attack, I like Timu Pukki always.
Yeah, and Laud, names that you hear it and you're like, oh, I forgot he was on this.
Yeah, no, you do. There's so many transactions in the off-season,
deep.
And it's hard to keep up with all of them. And as the weeks go on, then you'll start seeing these guys over and over, and you'll know where they play if you haven't studied it.
Yeah.
But those are teams I definitely like Seattle, attacking wise. Austin, I think, is a mess this season.
No, yeah.
Seattle's home opener. I always put a lot into that. So those are guys besides your normal Lucho, Cucho, Messi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love Messi this week. They are home. I think Orlando, you got an in-state rival. I think Galese's a great keeper.
Yeah.
I think they have a great back line. So I think this is a week where he's probably not worth. Did he go up? Is he $10.5 million now?
Messi?
Yeah.
He is $10.5 million. Yeah.
You got to be giving me a lot for $10.5 million at this point in the season.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I really do think that even though he's $10.5 million, if you don't make that investment now and the money moves up with it, because I don't see him not ending the season at 15 mil. I really think there's going to be.
Most likely, but I just think this is a potential downer week. He scored in both games so far.
That's
Both games
true.
opening weekend. 3 games in a row that he has a goal against an in-state rival that has a good keeper and a good back line. I think this is the time. I'm not saying Miami will get shut out, but maybe he doesn't get
Well, and
the goal or the assist.
it was funny because I heard Taylor Twellman say it, and I just didn't want him to be correct. But he was talking about how Orlando beat Miami the first time. Like, when that happened, Orlando talked shit all game, and they were really physical, and it was a lot of fouls, and that was how LA played against Miami, and it worked.
And they should have won.
They absolutely should have won that.
That ref made an enormous mistake, and everything changed when that guy got his red.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the game plan, and Orlando invented that game. Like, they know how to play against Miami, so I do think that could be a letdown game for them. While we're talking about just games and teams, so technically, I am not allowed to give you gambling advice until March 11th. That is when it's legal to gamble online in the state of North Carolina. But we are going to go through with some play money on some lines I found on the internet and just see what we're thinking. And so Minnesota United, plus 155 playing the Columbus Crew, who is plus 140. To be honest with you, I kind of like Minnesota in this game. It's Crew on the road. They're coming off a win, and they're coming off, MLS Cup champion. There's so much happening. This has to come back to earth.
So good.
They are. And
I wouldn't bet against them. And when they're on the road against a good team at home, I wouldn't bet. I would avoid this game personally.
I also, Orlando, Inter Miami. Orlando City is plus 340. That line is gross. To me,
I like that.
I like Orlando.
I would definitely play
I
that.
like Orlando at plus 150, honestly. Like, plus 340 seems insane to me.
Yeah, no, I like that number.
Charlotte, plus 280 against the Whitecaps. Now, they are in Vancouver, and it's a new Charlotte team. Pretty simple defensively. Like, I felt like Charlotte was easier to watch than they were last season. Now, they also were not...
New York was really bad.
Yeah, but...
They were really
Charlotte,
bad. I was at that game.
Yeah, that's true. Charlotte, I felt, didn't make as much chances as they should have against that New York team.
Yeah, I don't like Charlotte on the road. And this is Vancouver's opener, because they had the bye last week.
True.
And it's a home opener. I think they're a good team. I would avoid Charlotte. If anything, I bet Vancouver, but I really don't like to bet for against Charlotte.
Gotcha.
Just like all the teams that I root for.
Yeah.
You feel like you have some bias,
right,
as a fan. So I try to avoid those. But I would, if I had to bet that, I'd bet against Charlotte. I don't like them on the road.
Mm-hmm.
They won one game, and everybody's you look at all their off-season signings. I'm watching teams signing guys from top-flight leagues, and you don't ever see that with Charlotte. I never heard of the majority of the guys they signed. So, yes, it was a first game was a win. That's a good start to the season. There's a reason that most of your analysts pick them between 11 and 14. I mean, almost all of them picked them between 11 and 14. A lot of them picked them 14.
Yeah. No,
so, I think they can do better than that. But I think people have their hopes up after a first home win against a bad road team.
Don't get too excited.
Yes, I'm certainly not.
Next game that I thought was interesting, actually two big ones here. So Dallas at home playing Montreal. Dallas minus 115, Montreal plus 285. I don't see Dallas losing that game at home. I really don't.
No, and you worry about a draw, right? That's your...
Yeah.
But I like Dallas.
So draw is plus 245. So if you want to,
hedge
your bet there, it's not the end of the world. You make your money back.
If you're using different values, you're betting 50 to win and 100 on the draw. I don't know if those numbers work out.
It gets hard.
I would crunch numbers and you could hedge it.
If you're the type of person who's going to do that, you were going to do it anyway. You weren't going to do it because we told you.
I would just pick Dallas. I have confidence in them. I think they can win at home against Montreal. I like Dallas in that game. And what'd you say, minus 115?
Yeah.
That's not much of a vig. I think that's pretty good.
Next one, and this is probably the only one I'm picking the underdog, if you can call them an underdog. Chicago Fire at home versus Cincinnati. Fire is plus 115. Cincinnati's plus 190 because they're on the road. But honestly, Cincinnati.
They're so good. And they
lost. Unimpressive. I mean, everything came through that Gutierrez kid. They still haven't figured out Shaqiri and how to get the best out of him. Like, Chicago feels unsettled to me.
So Cincinnati, even though they don't have Barreal anymore, they're still playing like they do. Orlando took his place. Kubo took his place.
Right.
And they're still playing that same style. And they play it really well. And Acosta touches the ball so much, and he makes things happen. He had a ridiculous number. I was watching the game, and I think he had a number like 12 key passes at a point where he only had 20 passes in the game.
But 12 of them.
So, what is that, 60%? 60% of his passes at the time were key passes. That's insane. They're just so good. Salentano made great saves. I love Miles Robinson's addition to that team.
Yeah.
And Kip Keller.
Great.
He was. If you watched him, he got up in the box. He was attacking all the time.
Nice.
That dude was everywhere. So I actually really like him. He plays like in a 3-man back line, but you'd think that means he has to stay back, but he doesn't. He was up. He was inside or just outside the 18 so much. Not just on set pieces. He got up there and involved. So they're just such an attacking team, and I think teams don't face that very much, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
No, and it's a lot of guys that know how to do it.
It's funny because watching this weekend, I noticed in a bunch of different games, honestly, not even just one, but relentless intensity attacking really stops an MLS team. They don't know what to do right now. The teams that are coming out all-out attack are getting very successful right now.
And I think the MLS overall isn't very good at defense.
I also think that...
And this weekend there's actually quite a few clean sheets, which are surprising. But overall, I think it's more of an attacking league.
There were, 2 missed penalties. There were a lot of, just striker mishaps.
There's a lot of crossbars.
Yeah, and things that I don't think happen in week 5.
Right.
Once you've taken...
Well, and with Cincinnati, Bupenza was still coming back from the injury. He didn't come in until late in the game. There's another attacking threat. Mm-hmm. I think Cincinnati is going to be a top team again this season like they were. And I like them even on the road in Chicago.
Next game I wanted to bring up, we have the Rapids at home playing Nashville. This line just feels lopsided to me, which is really why I'm bringing it up. The Rapids are plus 140, Nashville plus 180. Nashville's coming off a bad game, and the Rapids obviously coming off of a national newsline bad game.
People like Portland this year.
Colorado
I like Neville.
Is worse than Portland is good. I really believe that.
I think Colorado has a great future. They have so many good young players. I just don't know when that future comes.
Starts,
So I have trouble betting against them at home. I could see them losing. Nashville, I haven't really... All last season, they weren't very good on the road. Hani Mukhtar still isn't the guy he was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He is just... It seems like he fell off the face of the earth.
No, yeah.
I could see that game being 0-0.
Maybe.
I really could.
My honest thought was 1-0. Nashville gets some early goal.
It's totally possible. And getting plus 180, plus 180 in a winnable game, you have to like those odds. If you're playing games like that, and what was the big, 350 earlier you were talking about?
That was... Orlando City was plus 340.
If one of those two teams hit...
You paid for the other one.
Well, almost. If Orlando hits, you still made money. If Nashville hits, you almost made your money back.
Right.
So betting both of them, if you feel pretty good about both of them, that's not bad to match up together.
Moving on to the last one that I pulled, and then if there were any that you had, we can definitely talk about them. But the Earthquakes at home against the Galaxy, San Jose minus 110, Galaxy plus 253. San Jose is very good. I don't want to make it sound like I think San Jose is not. It's a real team. Boba say, LA Galaxy looked so good against Miami, and San Jose is not Miami. So if they can put in the performance that they put in last game, they will win this game.
Yeah,
Now you're asking a lot, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, it was home opener.
plus
So it's a lot of
253,
energy.
I really believe makes that work.
And I, again, like those other games I said, you put those all together, 2 of 3 hit.
Yeah.
You're well in the black. I really like Ricky Puig. I'm a big fan.
I think he's great.
That dude has so much energy. Like, if you watched him, like, he was trying to get the crowd into it and everything, like, during the game.
Well, and he's like a little gnat.
And he's only like 24. Like,
yeah,
they're young, but good and young. I do like LA Galaxy. I like that bet as well. What is Seattle laying?
Seattle is minus 185. Austin plus 425.
Yeah, because Seattle's going to win that game.
Yeah.
I would take Seattle even laying that. They are the far better
minus
team.
185.
It is their home opener. I said that a lot, but I believe that matters.
Yeah.
They're just the far better team. And I mean, they did well last week, and they didn't have Fry.
True.
I'm pretty sure he's back this week. The line seems like he is. But
there
I'm
will
almost
be a
positive
lot
he's
of
back.
as news comes out, kind of this week and next week over, because there's so many teams have like 4 or 5 guys who aren't eligible right now that are going to be shortly. I saw there's some
Miazga comes back.
visa issues at Dallas. There's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, as we start doing these more, once it's legal and I can actually bet and show you what I bet and everything, I will be keeping like a season-long total so that you can track how I did. And then we're going to put that next to my investment account and see which is the smarter way to spend your money.
Probably the investment account. Over the long term.
But over the short term, I'm going to make bank on this.
Okay.
All right. I think that's our episode. Is there any last things you want to tell the people?
Check your lineups.